My stepmother attacked my child over a wedding roll, while my dad defended her, so I cut them off entirely, and now they're begging to be let back. After years of my dad enabling his entitled wife's toxic behavior, I finally cut contact when she crossed the line and attacked my child over a wedding dispute. I tried posting this on AITA through another account a couple of days ago, but it didn't go through. Given the trigger warning, I can't say I'm surprised. Since then, I've come to terms with the fact that my wife and I made the right choice, so this will be my final attempt to share the story. I've added more details and adjusted some wording. For privacy, all names are changed. I'm 28 million, and my stepmother, 49 feet, is a self-proclaimed party planner. She's made it her mission to organize and host every family gathering since marrying my dad. Growing up, I never enjoyed those events. She was controlling, quick to anger if anyone complained, but I played along for my dad's sake. He insisted it helped her feel included. I'm marrying my fiancée, Jane, 26F, this July. We got engaged in early 2021, but Jane became pregnant a few months later, so we postponed the wedding to focus on raising our son. That led to a long engagement. From the start, my stepmother tried to hijack our wedding plans, complaining, contacting our planner behind our backs, even showing up uninvited to Jane's dress fittings. We've asked her repeatedly to stop. My dad thinks we should indulge her, but she's clearly resentful about not being the host or listed as mother of the groom on invitations. Besides our baby boy, we're also raising Luke, 4M, Jane's paternal half-brother. She got custody of him after his parents passed away, just a few months into our relationship. I moved in with them during the pandemic and have been in Luke's life ever since. He doesn't call me Dad, instead calling us his sister and his op, but we love him like our own. My stepmother, however, despises Luke. She accuses Jane of trapping her way into our family, and those accusations only grew worse after our son was born. My dad adores Jane and the kids, but my stepmother constantly demands that he refuse to babysit Luke. Because of that, we rarely leave the kids with them. Usually, Jane's brother and sister-in-law watch them, since their children are close in age. Last Sunday, though, we had an event to attend. My brother-in-law was out of town with his family, and Jane's other siblings live in different cities, as do my mom and sister. My dad agreed to babysit at our place, so we left the kids with him. When we returned, both children were crying. My stepmother was screaming, and my dad looked weak and desperate trying to calm things down. Apparently, Luke had told my stepmother that he and our son were both going to be ring-bearers at our wedding. She completely lost it, shouting that Luke wasn't family and would not be allowed that role. When Luke started crying, she lashed out physically. His lip was split open. She had never escalated this far before. We immediately banned her from our home and from the wedding. My dad is furious and now refuses to come without her. Worse, he's managed to convince half of his side of the family, by downplaying what she did, to boycott the wedding too. This includes my stepbrother, who always takes her side, no matter what. No matter how many times I explain the truth, they won't listen. Jane and I are standing firm. Many of my cousins who now refuse to attend are pressuring us to reconsider. Thankfully, most of Jane's family supports us. Only one of her aunts suggested maybe my stepmother is lashing out because she feels excluded by my family. Honestly, I've had enough of everyone enabling her behavior. I love my dad and wish he could be at my wedding, but I'm fully prepared to go without him if it means keeping my children safe. Edit? I realized I forgot to mention this earlier, but yes, we did press charges. We took Luke to his pediatrician the following day and gathered all possible evidence. Not only did we have pictures of his injuries, but by sheer luck we also had nanny cam footage. Some commenters correctly assumed my stepmother wasn't technically invited to our house. My dad rarely goes anywhere without her, so we took precautions. We didn't expect her to go this far, but we've never trusted her with the kids. The physical attack happened off camera, but we caught her screaming at Luke and his cries before and after. She now has a child abuse charge on her record. We weren't about to let her get away with this. Edit 2. There's a lot more context I'd like to add, and I'll try to respond to some of the comments as I can. I didn't expect the amount of support I've gotten so far, but I'll start this update by saying that Luke is okay. We took him to the pediatrician the next day. He was already seeing a counselor since Jane was worried about the trauma of losing her dad and stepmom affecting him, so we continued with treatment. We've been hugging him and giving him extra comfort these past few days. He's still shaken, but he's already doing much better. Breakup date: the entitled stepmonster has officially been banned from my wedding. I want to thank everyone who read or commented on my last post. It's been a rough week, but it helps to know there are people out there who care. I haven't been able to reply to every single comment, but I'll try to address some things here. First off, Jane and I are officially no contact with my dad and stepmother. Since the incident, I haven't spoken to either of them, and I don't plan to. Any communication is handled through my younger sister, who is completely on our side. She's staying in low contact for now. I've decided to take Jane's approach to relationships. Forgive when someone genuinely apologizes, but never forget. If my dad and stepmother ever truly understand what they did and offer a sincere apology, we'd be willing to forgive them, though probably begrudgingly. Still, forgiveness doesn't mean trust. We will never allow them near Luke, our baby, or any future children. As for the rest of my family, I know many people suggested I post pictures of Luke's injuries or release the nanny cam footage. But I'm not comfortable putting images of my hurt preschooler online. Nothing on the internet ever disappears. I also decided not to share the photos with relatives unless absolutely necessary. For context, while most of my family adores my dad, they don't like my stepmother much. She had 2 failed marriages before marrying him, the first of which gave her my stepbrother. My dad cheated on his then-girlfriend with her, and since the family loved that girlfriend, they disliked my stepmother right from the start. Over the years, she's been manipulative and controlling, always trying to shove herself into the family matriarch role. Taking over every holiday and family event became her way to grab attention and praise. I hated those gatherings growing up because she always made them about her, even Christmas and my sisters and my birthdays. Things shifted when Luke came into the picture. Most relatives didn't meet him until restrictions eased during the pandemic, when he was already 2. He's such a bright, lovable child, and with no other small kids in the family, everyone doted on him immediately. I honestly think my stepmother resented how quickly Jane and Luke were embraced by the family, compared to the long, strained history she had. She also hated that she had no role in our wedding. Aside from not being the planner, she wanted deeper involvement. She even pressured us to let her officiate. But that spot had been offered to one of Jane's closest friends over a year ago. She pushed for my stepbrother to be my best man, though he wasn't interested, and I'd already asked my best friend. She tried to replace the flower girl, suggesting Jane's 15-year-old cousin, who barely knows us, instead of Jane's 3-year-old niece we had promised long ago. She even suggested my dad walk Jane down the aisle since her father had passed, but Jane already chose her eldest brother, the same brother-in-law I mentioned earlier. Every time, stepmother acted disappointed and made snide remarks that none of this would have happened if she had been in charge. But none of that justifies what she did to Luke. Nothing excuses attacking a child, especially if it all came from petty jealousy. Since I'm not speaking to my father, my sister has been keeping me updated. According to her, the version of events my dad and stepmother are spreading to the family completely erases Luke's injury and the abuse charge. They're claiming Jane and I banned them simply because we were annoyed with my stepmother, and that I unfairly punished my dad by cutting him out, too, because most of my relatives already disliked my stepmother, so explaining what truly happened that night wasn't difficult. The family members I actually care about have apologized and are now angry with my dad for defending her. Those who refused to believe us, or accused us of overreacting, are no longer welcome in our home. Unsurprisingly, most of them are from my dad's generation. Realizing how biased they are, protecting a woman they've despised for years just to keep my dad content, made it clear I don't need them in my life. My stepbrother is still in denial. He refuses to believe his mother could hurt a child, even with all the evidence we presented. As much as I get it, I love my own mom, too. It doesn't excuse his refusal to face reality. Because of this, he's also been cut off. It hurts since we were close growing up, but I don't regret it. I've grown much closer to Jane's siblings anyway. Besides Luke, she has her older brother, my brother-in-law, a twin brother, and a younger sister. I've always felt closer to them than I ever was to my stepbrother. Jane's family has been furious over what happened and incredibly supportive. Her maternal relatives essentially adopted Luke after Jane gained custody, and they've been calling constantly to check on him. We even managed to save money from the reduced guest list after uninviting so many people. We're now using that money to fly in Jane's cousin, who lives abroad and couldn't afford the trip before. Luke is also doing much better, almost back to his cheerful, sunny self. His split lip was shallow, healing well, and didn't need stitches. We sat him down a few days ago to explain that my dad and stepmother won't be around anymore. He really liked my dad, but knows the two are inseparable. He's clearly afraid of her, but we're reassuring him daily that he is family, that we love him, and that no one will ever change that. Break. I'm not too worried about them trying to show up at the wedding, but we've alerted the venue staff and given them photos of both my dad and stepmother just to be safe. Some people have pointed out the hypocrisy in my stepmother saying, "Luke isn't family." I agree completely. Her excuse for everything she does has always been that she doesn't feel welcomed by my family. For years, my dad has guilted us into tolerating her by repeating that. But this situation is exactly a case of the pot calling the kettle black. Luke is family in every way that matters. That realization has finally made me accept that, while I'll always love my dad, it's not safe or healthy to let him around me or my family anymore. It hurts knowing my son won't have his only remaining biological grandfather in his life, but he has two amazing step-grandfathers who will more than make up for it. For now, I'm sad, but I'm also satisfied with how things have turned out. My life is messy, but it's beautiful. I love my fiancé, I love my kids, and I'm lucky enough to love my work. We're happy, and I won't let anyone destroy that. As for those who found my earlier writing too censored, that was my fault. Jane suggested I tone down the language so it wouldn't get flagged again, but I overdid it since I'm not used to Reddit yet. Hopefully, this will be my last update, but I'll post again if anything major happens. Thank you all for the love and support. It means the world. Update. Stepmother, my family, and my kids. I'll start with news that might disappoint some. Realistically, it looks like stepmother won't face more than a slap on the wrist legally. Jane and I are still discussing options with our lawyer, but it's too early to predict much. What I can share is that we've started the process of filing a restraining order against her, using the nanny cam footage and pictures of Luke as evidence. I still haven't spoken to my dad. My sister, who is low contact, continues to update me. She's even considering cutting ties with him entirely. Since she's the only one still speaking to him, my father keeps pestering her with questions about me, whether I've calmed down, bottom of his rope, but even then he still didn't fully get it. According to my sister, he's frustrated that half of his relatives now refuse to speak to him, yet he still won't accept why. I told her she doesn't need to keep being his messenger. I never asked her to, and it's clearly wearing her down. She insists she'll stop when she feels it's right, but I wish she'd put herself first. There's absolutely no doubt about what happened. Luke told us the moment we got home, and my dad himself confirmed it in a failed attempt to defend my stepmother. He never tried to hide it. He even gave Luke an ice pack afterward. That's the only remotely decent thing he did. Meanwhile, my stepmother was too busy screaming about how Luke was a whiny brat to even deny it. For those who guessed she's younger than my dad, you're right. She's 5 years younger than his previous girlfriend. They got together when I was around 15, and my stepbrother, who's only a month older than me, was born when she was 21. She turns 50 later this year. Both of our kids are doing okay, thankfully. Luke spends most of his time running around the house in his Superman costume whenever he's not otherwise entertained. He's had a few nightmares this past week and twice asked to sleep in our bed. We don't mention my father around him, and he's still continuing counseling. Our 14-month-old son has learned 2 new words, hi and bye, and Luke is trying to teach him to say his name. Jane's younger sister, who moved away for college, is coming over soon for her 21st birthday. Luke's excited to see her, and Jane's looking forward to celebrating with her. And honestly, she deserves it. Hopefully, her visit will lift everyone's spirits. As for me, I'm not doing so great. Jane is usually someone who hides her negative emotions, but after the incident, she cried herself to sleep almost every night that week. Watching her break down like that destroyed me, and I can't shake the guilt. A part of me keeps saying I couldn't have predicted my stepmother would go that far, but it doesn't matter. I still allowed my dad around my children unsupervised, knowing she'd likely tag along. It's the worst guilt I've ever felt, and I don't think I'll ever forgive myself for it. Jane has been doing better lately, though, and she's been encouraging me to see a therapist. I've never really done therapy before, apart from seeing a psychiatrist when I was younger, but now might be the right time. I was surprised by some messages suggesting I forgive my father and stepmother, or even re-invite them to the wedding. That's never going to happen. I'll never forgive her. My dad, maybe, someday, but only a slim chance. Either way, I'll never forget what she did. Despite everything, the wedding is still happening on schedule. We briefly considered postponing, but the date we chose is the only one that works for everyone. We've secured everything with vendors, using passwords and strict instructions that they only speak with us. Jane's family is larger and closer knit, so they're more involved in the wedding than mine. But I do have family in the ceremony. My sister is a bridesmaid, 2 of my cousins are groomsmen, and my mom is walking with the wedding party. Break. Going through this with Jane has only deepened my love for her. I couldn't ask for a stronger partner to build a family with, and I truly don't know what I'd do without her. This ordeal didn't tear us apart. If anything, it made us stronger. I couldn't be more grateful. I don't plan to post again until after the wedding unless something major happens. Best wishes to all of you, and thank you again. Update 2. I saw my father and stepmother for the first time since she attacked my child. I wasn't planning to update before the wedding, but this was too big not to share. The good news is, we got the restraining order. The bad news? Jane and I had to see both of them at the court hearing. It was our first time facing them since throwing them out over a month ago, and neither of us wanted to be there. Thankfully, we left the kids with Jane's brother and sister-in-law, so at least Luke didn't have to see them. The hearing itself was quicker than I expected. To give credit where it's due, my father was at least my dad was smart enough to realize they didn't stand a chance. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Not only did we have nanny cam footage, Luke's photos, and his medical records, but my sister had gathered every text and email my stepmother sent to the family about the incident. On top of that, SM had been ranting on the phone to several relatives, and those recordings were shared as well. They didn't even bother to get an attorney for the hearing. The judge granted us a protection order against her, barring her from coming within 500 feet of us or our property. We're changing all the locks this week, and I'm considering changing my phone number too. Honestly, the moment we walked out of the courthouse was the first time I felt truly safe since this nightmare began. Jane nearly burst into tears of relief when we got to the car. We picked up the kids and went to McDonald's with Bill and his family to celebrate. A few hours later, my dad called me. The restraining order doesn't extend to him, so he's still allowed to contact me. Jane and the kids were asleep, so I answered. I didn't expect a sudden change of heart or apology, but I figured I'd give him one last chance. After some awkward small talk, I told him to get to the point. He asked if the order was really necessary. I made it clear SM would never come near Jane or our children again, and I was glad the order made that official. He tried excuse after excuse. She only hit him once. That was enough for me. The kids need their grandma. She isn't their grandmother, my mom is. She deserves respect. She lost any right to that the moment she attacked Luke and disrespected my family in my own house. He launched into a rant about how SM was a godsend, all the things she had supposedly done for me and my sister since she came into our lives. I fired back with a list of every time she lied, crossed boundaries, or acted completely unhinged, ruining milestones like our wedding planning, our son's birth, Jane's baby shower, and my sister's graduation. I reminded him of her obsession with appearances, her cruelty toward Luke, and how she constantly rifled through our personal belongings when we were younger. That habit never stopped. She only quit 3 months ago when my sister moved out. I'm convinced she found out about Jane's dress appointments by snooping through my sister's planner when she wasn't home. Those memories, though messy, reinforced the truth. SM means nothing to me. When my dad tried the same tired excuse again, that she just didn't feel included, I shut him down hard. He had the chance to protect his grandchildren but chose his wife instead. That's all I needed to know. I hung up without saying goodbye. Later, my sister told me he called her, and she told him she was going no contact too. It hurts, but I think we're both finally accepting that our father won't change. He's made his priorities clear, and his kids and grandkids aren't among them. For now, that's where things stand. Since those memories are fresh in my mind, I'm considering sharing some of the stories I brought up to him. It may take a while, but I'll get to them eventually. Update 3. Stepmonster tried to hijack our baby shower. As I mentioned in my last post, I was thinking about sharing stories from before we got the restraining order and cut contact with my father. There are plenty worth telling, but I'll start with one of my sister's favorites. For privacy, all names are changed. My fiancée, Jane, found out she was pregnant in June 2021. We shared the news with our immediate families in August. At first, SM couldn't care less about our baby. I wasn't surprised. This is the same woman who, upon hearing the announcement, asked Jane if she was sure the baby was mine. Even my dad scolded her for that one. From then on, she barely acknowledged the pregnancy at all, focusing instead on my stepbrother, who was also engaged and would soon give her a beautiful grandbaby. We honestly didn't mind. Her lack of involvement was a blessing. Break. Planning our baby shower was tricky. Both Jane and I had work commitments through the holidays, and I wanted to be involved. With a due date in February, with it for a short while, but of course, that didn't last. Our baby was due in February 2022, so we settled on early January for the shower. We enlisted 2 planners. My sister Laura, just realized I'd never given her a name before, and Jane's best friend Nina. Since Jane and I are pretty laid back, we didn't want a huge or expensive party. We were saving for both the baby and the wedding. We decided the shower would be co-ed, indoors. January weather made that necessary, with a guest list of about 25 adults plus a dozen kids. We came up with a fun theme, a pizza party. Homemade pizza nights had become a weekly tradition for me, Jane, and Luke, plus my brother-in-law's surrogate son, since I moved in, so it felt perfect. Nina found a venue with a pizza oven, and Laura brainstormed ways to tie in classic baby shower activities. The end result was incredible. Make your own pizzas, non-alcoholic drinks, and plain onesies for the kids to decorate. Nina and Laura mixed pizza-themed decorations with baby decor, and even found pizza-shaped sweets. It sounded chaotic on paper, but they pulled it off beautifully. By mid-November, most of the planning was complete. Then, later that month, my stepbrother's fiancée abruptly left him for her ex. They'd been together for 4 years, so it was sudden and devastating for him. With that, my stepmother realized her long-awaited grandbaby would be delayed. Naturally, she redirected her obsessive energy toward me and Jane. Overnight, she transformed from disinterested relative to excited grandma-to-be, complete with tacky Facebook posts, gaudy, promoted to Nana shirts, and non-stop baby talk. At first, Jane and I ignored her. We were busy wrapping up work projects and preparing for the holidays. But soon, she began pestering us about planning both the baby shower and a gender reveal. We told her flat out, no gender reveal. Nothing against people who enjoy them, but we weren't interested. We'd also decided to wait until birth to find out the baby's sex. She tried to pressure us into learning early and giving her the result as a Christmas gift, but we refused. Then she insisted on taking over the shower. We denied that too. Instead of respecting that, she went to my dad, who pressured Laura into letting SM help with the plan since they still lived together at the time. Laura had little choice. She and Nina reluctantly met SM for coffee. Laura later told me that before they even got a word in, SM whipped out a ridiculously thick binder labeled "Oh Baby," complete with colorful tabs, fabric swatches poking out, and page after page of ideas. She skipped right to the shower section. Laura sent me photos of the binder, and I'll admit, SM's plan looked like something ripped straight from Instagram. But while photogenic, it was completely impractical and ridiculously expensive. Think oversized teddy bears, balloon arches, giant alphabet blocks, and corny signs everywhere. She cared more about making it pretty than making it comfortable. The seating was stiff and formal, the food was fussy, most of it contained soft cheeses Jane couldn't eat, and the color scheme was 3 shades of pink with gold accents. Honestly, it looked like Barbie had vomited all over Hello Kitty's birthday. When Nina reminded her we didn't know the baby's sex yet, SM smugly insisted it was a girl. Spoiler, it wasn't. Her plan also demanded an all-female, child-free event with fancy caterers and alcohol. Her guest list included several of her friends, but excluded both of our mothers. She even had party games planned that no one would have enjoyed. The only point of agreement was holding the party indoors. Laura and Nina weren't able to show her their pizza-themed plans until SM had finished her entire pitch. When they finally did, they politely explained that while they might incorporate a few of her ideas, the shower theme and structure had already been finalized a month earlier with our approval. SM protested, But Laura firmly reminded her that they were being generous, even considering her input this late in the game. With the shower only weeks away, it was unrealistic to overhaul everything. Not satisfied, SM called me personally, trying to get me to force them to change course. I simply repeated Laura and Nina's words. The plans were set, and that was final. Around that time, my dad learned he couldn't attend the shower due to scheduling conflicts, which meant he lost his say in the matter entirely. Once the holidays arrived, the subject seemed to drop. SM acted like she had accepted it. But of course, that didn't last. With the pizza party plans, Nina even managed to compromise a little. She paired some of the pink decor SM had pushed for with matching blue pieces, and added one of the giant teddy bears SM had wanted. Fast forward to a week before the shower, Jane was nearly 8 months pregnant. Everything was purchased, RSVPs confirmed, and the event was ready to go. The shower was scheduled for 7 p.m. SM offered to arrive early to help set up. Laura agreed, mostly because she knew SM would complain otherwise, and the venue allowed decorations to be dropped off ahead of time. Jane and I promised to arrive by 6 o'clock. Great my. 2 days before the shower, Nina got a call from the venue. SM had already stopped by with large boxes labeled as a little surprise, and told them she'd be arriving at 3:30 p.m. to start setting up. The venue reminded her the booking didn't start until 4 o'clock, and apparently she nearly threw a fit when told none of the existing decorations were on site yet. Suspicious, Laura drove over the next day and asked to see SM's boxes. She wasn't shocked at the contents, but she was floored by the audacity. Everything inside was pink, frilly decor, the same items SM had shown off before. Balloons, signs, placemats, oversized bows, all designed to completely overwrite our pizza party. It became obvious SM's plan was to sneak in early, set up her perfect vision, and force us to celebrate in her Barbie nightmare. Laura immediately called Nina, and they brainstormed what to do. Neither could be at the venue at 4 p.m., meaning it was almost guaranteed SM would get her way. The simplest solution was to toss the decorations in the trash, but Laura came up with something better. That night, she called me and Jane. "Want to ruin a party in 2 hours?" The plan was simple, but brilliant. The next day, after SM finished setting up around 5 o'clock, Laura lured her away by inviting her to a salon trip, lying about having discount coupons. SM agreed, and they headed off together. As soon as Laura texted that the coast was clear, me, Jane, and Nina rushed to the venue. Sure enough, SM had transformed the room into a blinding pink nightmare. Jane swore. Just looking at it made her nauseous. For the next 2 hours, we tore it all down. Every balloon, bow, and frilly centerpiece went straight back into SM's boxes. We replaced it all with the pizza party setup. Tables, activities, and our carefully planned decor. We finished just minutes before guests started arriving. A few people had already shown up when SM returned. I didn't see her reaction directly, but Laura later told me her jaw practically hit the floor. My sister leaned in, smiled, and whispered, "Nice try," before walking off to help Luke decorate a onesie. Meanwhile, SM spent the entire evening sulking in a corner. At one point, Nina caught her trying to stick tiny pink bows on the cupcakes, but she shut that down fast. The shower itself was exactly what we wanted. Fun, relaxed, filled with laughter and pizza. Our friends came, everyone enjoyed themselves, and the kids had a great time. SM's behavior barely mattered in the end. Afterward, her Nana obsession fizzled out. She stopped wearing the tacky shirts, didn't visit us at the hospital when our son was born, and even refused to acknowledge he was a boy until weeks later when she finally saw him. By the time we went no contact, she was the loosest possible definition of a grandmother. Honestly, I'm just grateful my son will never know her. Edit. The shower was at 7 p.m. because it was the only time that worked for everyone, including the venue, which had been booked earlier in the day. We needed extra time for setup, too. Luke was the only small child present. The rest were at least 9 years old, and most parents with younger kids left early. Also, while it wasn't officially child-free, we had planned accordingly for everyone we invited, though not all could attend. Update 4. Stepmonster is gone, and I think this time it's for good. After being engaged for over 2 years, Jane and I finally tied the knot last Saturday. We're still getting used to calling each other husband and wife, but it feels incredible. The wedding itself was everything we hoped for. The kids had fun, our extended families finally got to meet, and we danced so much my legs were sore the next morning. Luke was so proud as he walked down the aisle holding our son's hand, taking his ring-bearer role seriously. Aside from my aunt getting plastered and having to be wheeled out, which, honestly, I predicted, the night went perfectly. It's been 4 months since we got the restraining order against SM, and life has been mostly peaceful. I never really worried about her crashing the wedding since it's literally illegal for her to come near us, but I still took precautions. Friends encouraged me to hire extra security, and while SM didn't show up, I don't regret the expense. Better safe than sorry. In those months, I've barely spoken to my stepbrother. We exchanged birthday wishes, and he texted Jane on hers back in June. But that's it. He knows the door is open if he ever wants to apologize. My dad, on the other hand, has stopped trying to reach me altogether. We haven't spoken since April. He's still attempting to contact my sister, but she's ignoring him. Shortly after she went no contact, they had a huge phone fight about SM's behavior over the years. It got ugly, insults were thrown, past grievances dragged up, and he sided with SM on nearly everything. She called me in tears afterward. I wanted to call him and yell, but she asked me not to. She's doing better now. She hasn't blocked him, but she won't take his calls or reply to texts. She's only received a handful. A weak apology on my birthday, and a long rant after neither of us wished him a happy Father's Day. Break. The truth is, I still love my father. I always will, but I can't be around him anymore. For now, that door is shut, but not locked. He knows what he'd have to do if he ever wanted his family back. I don't think he'll ever do it, but Jane insists on holding out a tiny sliver of hope. She's more optimistic than me, but she hasn't forgiven him or SM either. Jane has always been fiercely protective of Luke, and this whole ordeal cut her deeply. At one point I worried she'd blame me, but when I said that to her, she called me a dumbass. I've been in therapy for a few months now, and it's helped more than I expected. I've come to realize SM's behavior while I was growing up was much more damaging than I ever acknowledged. Finally, being able to talk about it has been freeing. Right now, I'm happier than I ever thought possible. I just married the love of my life. I have a family I adore. And though none of us are perfect, life feels beautiful. This will probably be my last update. Reddit has given me far more kindness and support than I could have imagined, and I can finally rest easy knowing I did what was right for my family. Thank you all for your encouragement and advice these past months. It truly meant more than I can put into words. Edit. Okay, maybe I updated too soon. I didn't want to make another post, so I'll add this here. My stepbrother called me today. Apparently, he and SM had a massive fight, and now he wants to meet up. I agreed, but only if it's just the two of us. We're planning to grab coffee on Wednesday. I don't know what to expect. Even if he apologizes, I need to be sure he understands how and why he let us down. Edit 2. I rescheduled the meetup. With Jane and me leaving for our honeymoon on Friday, I didn't want to spend the whole trip with this weighing on me. He understood, and we'll talk when I return. Final update. Stepmonster and Stepbrother. Hey guys, I've been away from Reddit for a few months because of work. But since a lot of people have messaged me about my stepbrother, I figured I'd share a small update. I'm tired and busy these days, so I might gloss over some details, but feel free to ask me anything. I first met my stepbrother for coffee back in August, after he'd had a huge fight with SM. During that argument, the restraining order came up. She had lied to him about a lot of things, claiming Luke picked on my baby, bad-mouthing Jane and twisting details. But this time, he pushed her hard enough that she finally admitted the truth. That was the turning point. Afterward, my stepbrother started to reevaluate his relationship with her. He talked to his therapist, his friends, and reflected on how she had raised him. He finally admitted I hadn't exaggerated what she did to Luke. He told me he'd wanted to reach out as early as June, but didn't want to put more stress on me and Jane before the wedding. Over the past 4 months, he and I have been slowly rebuilding our relationship. We've been meeting regularly for coffee or lunch, talking about his mother and the damage she caused to both our lives and my kids. In October, Jane began joining us too. Just 2 weeks ago, the kids saw him again for the first time in years. It was awkward at first, but things are good now. He's also been making amends with my sister, and that's been going well. In early November, he officially cut all contact with SM. Meanwhile, Jane and the kids are thriving. Luke turned 5 in September, and our little one will turn 2 this coming February. Holy crap. We'll be spending the holidays with Jane's family in Brazil, while my stepbrother will be with his girlfriend. Things are good. That's all for now. I'll let you know if anything major happens. Happy holidays, everyone. Best wishes to all of you.